In the first century AD, there was a great famine across the known world. All of the churches were giving to collections to help out people who were starving. In 2 Corinthians chapter 8, Paul tried to stir up the Christians in Corinth into generous giving towards those in need. And the way in which Paul encouraged and stirred up the Corinthians was by telling them about the Macedonians. Now, the Macedonians were not wealthy. In fact, it appears that they were so poor that Paul had no intention of asking them to give. They were in need of help themselves. But what Paul records is that the Macedonians begged for the privilege of participating in this work of charity. In a great ordeal of affliction, their abundance of joy and their deep poverty overflowed in the wealth of their liberality. For I testify that according to their ability and beyond their ability, they gave voluntarily. Now the Corinthians, on the other hand, apparently were not eager to give. It sounds like they were afraid they'd be taken advantage of. Or perhaps being taken advantage of was simply an excuse for not giving. Regardless, Paul's answer was to assure them that they weren't being taken advantage of, and, as we would say today, what goes around comes around. Paul tells them, if in the time of others' need you are generous and compassionate, then when the time comes that you are in need, you will discover that same compassionate generosity. I think about this every time I hear about people who, in a time of general grief, like a pandemic or a war in Europe, are moved with compassion and begin asking, what can I do to make a difference in someone else's life when they are hurting? They are the true Macedonians of this age.
Blessed is the man whose heart is moved and melts with pity toward the poor, whose soul by sympathizing love feels what his fellow saints endure. His heart contrives for their